Hello, lovely. This is Lazy Fox Creates, a podcast about the crafting experience, and I'm going to talk about GamerNation Con today. This is a convention put on by the D20 Radio Network every April, and it is fantastic and fun, and it's like a smaller con, so you know most of the people, and even if you don't know them, you know their faces. And you essentially get to just play board games or tabletop RPGs from Thursday to Sunday, so it's fantastic. It happens in Plano in Texas, so I do have to fly there, which I don't enjoy, but it's worth it because I apparently love traveling, is what I've discovered. And at this convention, I got to wear my Jinx cosplay. I love Jinx. She is perfect. No, I will accept no criticism. And I cosplayed just her regular outfit from Arcane. So I had the big wig with the long braids, I had the tank top, I had the striped pants, and most importantly, I had her fish bones. Back in episode 1, I talked about my shade cosplay and how that fell apart, and it was terrible and awful. Not the cosplay, but how I reacted to it. And this year, something wonderful happened in that my cosplay also fell apart a little bit, but it wasn't that bad, and like I dealt with it, like it wasn't even a big problem, so that's awesome. In episode 8, I talked about my essential crafting tools and how I was gonna bring things with me to GamerNation Con in case my cosplay started falling apart. Well, I didn't do that because I forgot. One of my wonderful friends, Irene, actually offered to bring a soldering iron after listening to how I destroyed my other cosplay, which was amazing. Like, having someone bring a soldering iron for you actually feels great. Um, I didn't need to use it this year, but I did use a few other things that she brought, which I was so thankful for. But I somehow forgot super glue, and when I was wearing my cosplay, yeah, I didn't have super glue on me. Which would have been useful, but whatever, it's fine. Um, I have learned to not rely on the stickiness of Velcro, and also to just not have Velcro showing if I have a long wig, because my wig did keep getting stuck in the Velcro on my belt because I measured out the belt when I had nothing but a regular tank top on, and then when I had my leather tank top on, yeah, those are different measurements, so I had to move the Velcro. And I went to sew it and it was like, ooh, too sticky. So I just didn't sew it and I was like, it'll be fine. Fell off a few times, but I just stuck that fucker right back on and we blasted. I had the cosplay on from about 8:30 in the morning to probably midnight. So I don't know. I feel like that was an accomplishment. It didn't come out exactly how I wanted it to, but you know what? If one of you make a cosplay and it comes out exactly how you wanted it to, you are a magician. So the wig, okay, so the parts of the cosplay. I had my wig. You know what's funny is that okay, so I dyed the wig. I had to dye the wig because I couldn't find a blue one with the length that I wanted. And I didn't account for the length when I dyed it in the pot on the stove because it got so twisted. And I spent probably like 6 hours untangling it, and I gave up on the second half of the extra wefts that I bought because oof. And I already didn't really have enough. So what I did, couldn't think of anything else to do. I flipped my wig over and I cut bits out of it. I thinned my wig, and I tied them at the bottom. It was the only thing I could think of to do. And you know what? That mofo was still very thick, so that part was fine. The braids did get very thick at the top and then thinned out suddenly. when when it came to the wefts and the pieces I had cut out. But I put her accessories over that part, and I tried to put it in a way that you wouldn't really notice, and honestly, I don't think anyone really did, except the people that I pointed out to. And I look back at the pictures and I'm like, "You know what? I don't think I would notice by just glancing at this. I don't think people really pay that close attention to other people's cosplays. I mean, unless you're, I don't know, snooty or in a cosplay contest. I will sometimes examine other people's cosplay, but it isn't to like find things to pick apart. It's like, oh my god, how did they do that? Like, that's awesome. The tank top, I think I talked about in my other episode, that I got very lucky and got a bunch of free leather from work. And I turned that into a tank top, and I somehow got it the right fitting on the first go, which is fantastic. And I sewed seams onto it by hand, which took forever. And I relied too much on super glue apparently this time because I tried to use super glue to glue the little oh, what are they called? The little rings on it on her tank top. And they immediately fell off, and I reminded myself, you are a leather worker. You should probably know that hot glue isn't going to stick to leather. Oops. But I super glued it instead, and that worked out. If I were to do it again, which I probably will, because I noted a lot of things this time that I could have done better. And for the first time for my cosplay, I like want to remake it and do better. Whereas in the past, I have mostly just been happy with whatever I did or hated it and abandoned it. But this time I found things that I wanted to improve on. So I think if I do it again, what I will do is I might even just use this same tank top. I'm gonna cut a little bit off the bottom because it's a little too long. Um, it was a little too flared at the bottom too. So I might take it in if I can. I don't know if I'll be able to because sewing in leather, you can't just like, it's not as easy as fabric. Um, but what I might do next time for the rings is actually punch holes into the leather around the holes. I'll punch little holes around the big hole. Yes, that hopefully that makes sense. And I'm actually gonna sew the rings on, and that way I don't have to worry about them falling off. I can sew through the foam pretty easily, so. But I was really happy with the paint job on the little fabric bits that she loops through the holes. It really looked like the cell shading that they do in the show, and I was really fucking happy. And you know what? No one commented on it, so I don't know if anyone else noticed, but I did, so that's enough. I sewed pants for the first time. Sewing pants with a fly is hard. That's what I learned. I spent a long time reading the instructions, trying to find out what the hell they were talking about, and putting fabric down and flipping it over like it said, and I'm like, this doesn't make any goddamn sense. But eventually it did make goddamn sense, and I ended up with a pair of pants. And yes, they were a little loose, and yes, I cut them a little bit too short, and yes, the fabric paint that I used wasn't the greatest. It was a generic brand from Michaels, so it did bleed over a little bit. However, it was the first time I made pants, so I was happy with it. And then I had this like other fabric paint with gold that I did along the edges, so that also wasn't perfect, but it was my Jinx pants, so I loved it. The boots I would have to do a bit more pondering about because I'm not sure how to fix them. I was unbelievably happy with the foam cutouts I did for all the accessories, the like gold bit and the silver bit that she puts on her toes. I would definitely need to buy entirely new boots because I wear a 10 and that was a 9.5, so it was a little squishy on my toes. And by the end of the day, it did hurt a little bit to walk, but you know, we do it for the cosplay. So even though the accessories on it were perfect and I'm in love with them, I would have to start all the way over from scratch. The floppy bit on the top with, well, I don't know how to describe it. It looks like she yanked her boots down. I think that's exactly how I described it in the other episode, actually. But I mean, the boots fold over the top. I wasn't really happy with how that came out, even though several other people told me it was perfect. I didn't think it was perfect. I was happy with it because I thought it looked good enough, but I don't want it to look good enough. I want it to look perfect. And it had the little horseshoe D-ring on it, and that made a very, very satisfying clank clank when I walked. Loved that. They were flying off my boots throughout the day because I didn't realize that they screwed on. And so someone came up to me with one and was like, "Is this from your boots?" I was like, "Oh, what? Where did this come from?" Okay. So if I did that, I would just have to put some super glue in the threading for that, so that would be fine. For my belts that I did, I just cut out really thin EVA foam and I covered it with black fabric, and I was really happy with those. I didn't really like how I didn't get the perfect angle, so they didn't sit perfectly, but I was really happy with them anyway. What I learned with that is to, again, I trusted hot glue too much, which is so funny because it took me a while to trust hot glue at all. And then for some reason this year I was just like, yeah, buddy, hot glue. I'd use it for everything. I definitely should have used super glue for that. My spikes lasted most of the day. But right before I got up to leave, I realized that I think 2 had fallen off, and I found them so I can put them back on, but, yeah, it was just meh. It's not a big deal because it was at the end of the day, but just something to learn from. The most important thing, obviously, was my fish bones, and I had it almost completely disassembled because I had to ship the base because it could not fit in my checked luggage. I actually don't have the base right now. I left it with one of my friends who well, the same friend who offered who brought a soldering iron for me. Hi, Irene, I love you, thank you. Irene has my fishbone base right now because she offered to ship it back to me because it was gonna just be a pain figuring out how to get to the post office when I didn't have a car, and all that, so that was a relief, and I'm gonna set that up somewhere to show it off during my video chats when I get that back. Um, a little bit about GamerNation Con itself, though. This con is so great. Okay, so like I said, you just play board games and tabletop RPGs like Thursday starting at 12, I think, yeah. And then Sunday also going to noon. And so it's like 3.5 days. But it's so fantastic. No, it's like 3 days. They say 4 days of gaming goodness. It's Thursday to Sunday. But so the more you play, the more XP you earn, and you get like 10 XP per hour played, and this counts for board games or minis or tabletop RPGs, or they have a few panels. Like I said, this is a very small con. It is mostly just hanging out with friends, which is honestly why people love it so much. Um, but the XP that you earned goes towards the auction on Sunday. People donate things like board games. Sometimes there's some books. People will donate handmade things. Like I donated a dice bag that I had made a couple years ago. My friend Irene donated a awesome D20 necklace that she made. And you bid with your XP that you have earned by gaming, and just whoever bids the highest gets it. So it's freaking awesome. And I got a horrified board game, the um, World of Monsters version. It has like Cthulhu and the Yeti in it. and we played that Sunday night after the auction had technically ended, but we were all going home on Monday, so we played it in the hotel. We had X-Files theme, so we all had different, like there was like the Illuminati, and I don't remember the other two. It was fun. And you had like these secret dossiers that you had to complete, which would be like take a picture of a Star Wars RPG and post it to social media and stuff, or take pictures with like podcast hosts and post it. Whichever faction won, they all got like a pin for. It was just really fun. If you were in the Plano area, I would definitely recommend going next year. They do it every April, so best of all is I get to see my friends. Obviously, that's what I come for. Board games are great and stuff, but really, I come to hang out with friends, and they're awesome and wonderful. And I only get to see them like once or twice a year. So yeah, that's the update on my Jinx cosplay. If you'd like to hear more about GamerNation Con or the cosplay, you can join the Discord. Go to the episode description or go to glitterfoxmedia.com. There's a join the Discord banner at the top. We are still doing a giveaway where you can join our Sparkle Squad and not only get my weekly newsletter, but also I will sometimes include you in important discussions like what unreleased episode should we send out to people. And possibly best of all, I have ordered some stickers for the podcast, the 2 podcasts that we do. I have a Lazy Fox Crate sticker, and I also have a We Fix Games sticker. And there may or may not be a 3rd sticker coming soon. Best way to keep on that is to join the Sparkle Squad. And you can also find that at glitterfoxmedia.com or in the episode description. On the website, it literally says Sparkle Squad. Just click that, enter your name and your email, reply to the first email that I send you with your address, and I'll send you some stickers. Well, I hope you have enjoyed listening to this as I have enjoyed making it. Now go on and make something.